12-step program, I started looking into other things and realizing how much harm people in the program were causing. So I decided to step away and found harm reduction and decided that's where I needed to be at. And I started TikToking, and it's been on the up and up ever since.
All right, everyone, that was tonight's guest, Live, Laugh, and Naloxone creator, Chauncie Beaston. My name is Donna. This is Phoenix Fire, coming to you from Treaty 6 territory in Saskatoon. Okay, let's bring in Chauncie. Hello, hello. I feel like It's been forever since we chatted.
I know, it's been so long.
Is there anything you'd like to say before we get started?
I just want to say thank you for guys for having me on here. Thank you for listening. I hope that I can share a message that helps somebody out there.
Awesome. Thanks. And thanks for joining us tonight. Okay, let's get at it. Okay, so before we officially jump in, I'd like to let everyone know that tonight's live production is brought to you in part by the Elizabeth Fry Society of Saskatchewan and Prairie Sky Recovery Center. All right, let's get into it. So, Chauncie, why don't you start out with give us some of your background story?
Okay, so I used a lot of drugs. Sometimes I'll go into the details. At the end of my using, I had been using heroin for like 10 years. I got really bad on meth. And I was homeless, living in my car, which I felt very lucky to have a car at that time because, you know, that was my shelter. And I had just gone through an arrest because at that time my boyfriend had overdosed, and I called 911. This was before we had our Good Samaritan laws. Called 911, and they arrested both of us. So I was on pre-trial, and I was like super methed out, and I thought the FBI was after me, but I wasn't too sure if that was the truth or not. I was making it, so it was plausible.
Yeah. I think anybody that's ever done that shit gets it, man. Like, fuck.
Yeah. And it just got to a point where it was just like, all right, I'm definitely going to go to jail if I don't stop because I'm on pre-trial. I may be going to like the federal penitentiary. Like I got to do something. So
can I interrupt for a quick sec, Chauncie? Yeah. What were you charged with?
I was charged with possession.
Okay.
Yeah, I was scared of heroin, whatever that is, Schedule 1 and 2.
Okay.
Yeah. So
and that carries a pretty heavy sentence down there, does it? Or
no, not really. I once I had gone through everything, they charged me, or they sentenced me to a year, with a year suspended, and then what is it called? It's the probation that never ends. I forget. I can't think what it's called.
It's all good.
Indefinite probation.
Wow.
Yeah, which is actually pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
Things are changing around here, especially in the county that I'm in. They just passed a law. It's like a 3 strikes law. So like, your first possession is like a fine or something, then you do like 60 days, and then you can like get drug court. I don't know. I probably shouldn't have even spoke on it because I don't know. I don't know it that well. I just know that I was excited that they were like making some more progressive changes.
Yeah, that's great.
But yeah, and now we do have the Good Samaritan laws where, if you call for help, you, the person overdosing, and everyone around you have immunity for things like possession, paraphernalia charges, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is great because now
That's
people aren't afraid to call 911.
yeah. That's thank God they made that change.
Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, so I had gotten charged with possession. I was, tweaking out, and I finally was just like, you know what? I am going to try to get into somewhere, because I can't keep doing this. So I called a friend of mine who I hadn't talked to in a long time, but she was working at a recovery organization, and I was like, "Hey, the feds might be after me. I don't know, but
I need a place
I
to
need
hide.
help. If you can help me in any way." I was like, I don't have any money. I don't have, like, I'm living in my car. And so let me, they were like, if you go to the state detox for, and you complete it, you can come to the recovery organization and we'll scholarship you for 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, cool. So I went in through there, and started my recovery journey. And I had gone to like NA meetings before that. I wouldn't even say that I had stints of sobriety, but I had times where I had come off of heroin and like, trying different ways of like managing. And but this was the first time that I really like dove in. It was like, hey, we've got to do something different. Let's try to work on ourselves. And I did good for about 60 days. I was more interested in hanging out with boys than doing the recovery thing. So I got caught up with some boy, started using again. Because I was on pre-trial, I ended up, pissing dirty or testing positive for lots of different stuff at pre-trial. So
No.
they locked me up for 37 days on this violation. And up until that time, I'd never like been to jail. I got locked up that one night, but that was like 7 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So it was not fun. It was.
Right.
I know some people will like try to act hard, and maybe they are really hard people, but I will tell you, like, hands down, I am not built for jail. Like, that is not for me.
Yeah.
and I mean, maybe that's a good thing, but I'm just, oh no, it was not good. The jail that I was in, we were locked down for 16 hours a day. It was not a good time. And so when I came out, I got mandated.
Look, I can come on screen now.
Yay.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So how long was it before you realized that jail wasn't for you?
It took probably about, I don't know, I'd say about 12 hours once the Vyvanse wore off. That's when I was like, you know what? No, I don't like this. I would like to go home now. So
I would like more Vyvanse.
Yeah, that was really bad because I was like, okay, I knew I had probation or pretrial that day. I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop doing heroin and crack, so I'm gonna take this Vyvanse and like stop doing these drugs. I'm just gonna use Vyvanse for the next couple days. Well, that was not a good idea because I went to jail that day and I was just like bugged out of my mind in a jail cell with nothing to do, and it was like my version of hell. It was
right. So just in case
tiles on the floor to count.
So just in case anyone watching doesn't know, what is Vyvanse?
So Vyvanse is a prescription stimulant. It's a little bit different than Adderall, but they're kind of the same thing. And I don't know why I thought that was better than crack. But to me, in my messed up mind, like that that was, that was progress.
You're classy
progress,
now.
not perfection.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm doing regulated drugs now. So it was in that jail cell though that like I really realized that like I've got to stop like focusing on not doing drugs, and I need to switch my perspective into how can I live a happy, successful, fulfilling life. And that would, I'll always bring that up because it was such an aha moment for me, because that's all my life, I would try to stop using drugs, and it was always just like, don't do drugs, don't do drugs. And all my brain is hearing is drugs, drugs, drugs. And, my whole perspective is wrapped around drugs. So once I shifted it to happy, successful, fulfilling life, I was able to kind of like just not do things that were not conducive to that lifestyle. So I got out of jail, got mandated to a recovery house. And this time I was like, okay, we see where we messed up last time. We're going to try to do this differently. And so I did. And I started really taking things more seriously. I did use one more time after that, and that was the day that I really gave it up for myself. It wasn't taken away from me by the courts, or I wasn't forced to go into rehab. This was a day I made a conscious decision to use, and a conscious decision that this was no longer for me. And so ever since then, I haven't picked up anything else.
And it's been, what, 4 years in October,
it'll be
I believe,
4
right?
years, October 4th.
Congratulations. Yeah. That's awesome. So,
Thank you.
I personally have never been through a recovery house. Dan was in a sober living house.
I was in treatment.
Yeah, so like, what was the recovery house like for you? Like, did you find it very like welcoming and you felt comfortable? Like I was always scared because I thought like it's going to be really rigid, and some of the interactions I'd had with some people in addictions counseling where they were kind of assholes to me. So I was like, that's not my path. But it would be interesting to hear from yourself what your experience was.
Okay, so excuse me, my cat has found plastic. She's obsessed with plastic. She is a plastic addict. If anybody knows those, 12 steps for cats that are addicted to plastic, please let me know. So we're really, really fortunate in my area in Richmond, Virginia. We have a great recovery community, and it is pretty progressive. The organizations around here are like peer-led organizations, but they also have, different therapies and things like that. And we have recovery houses now that like will, how do I say it? They allow cannabis, like marijuana maintenance. And we have, equine therapy and like all these cool different things.
Wow.
When I went, it was, there was one main one that really started it all. Shout out McShin. That's where I was at first. And then True Recovery was where I went after jail, which was basically, a protege of McShin. And so we lived in a house with a bunch of girls, and we got to live regular life. But during the day, if you didn't have a job, you'd go up to the center and you would do groups and stuff like that. It wasn't too like rigid or strict or anything. We really had a lot of room to like bump our heads and make our own mistakes, and like, either you're going to do this or you're not going to do this. We have this place for you to be if you want to be here. And so I was living in a house with 15 girls. So obviously, it's a lot of different personalities. And it's definitely not for everyone. I am somebody that is able to get along with a lot of different personalities, and I'm able to shrug things off, and but that's not everybody's story, and that's okay, so
Mm-hmm.
it's not for everybody, but it was great for me, especially somebody that like had lived their whole life with a bunch of guy friends and never really like being around women. And that was really hard for me. And one of the guy who ran True Recovery, his wife told me one time, she was like, a man can't teach a woman how to be a woman. And I was just like, I like, it just blew my mind. Like, why have I never like realized this? Like, I'm living to like a way that I think I'm supposed to be viewed, or I don't know, but it made me able to like look at women differently and realize that like I am a woman. I like being a woman, and like I want to, instead of like being jealous because this girl's prettier than me, maybe I can ask her, can you teach me how to do my makeup? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
that really, I feel like that's such like a cliche kind of example, but it's true,
It's not
like,
really. I mean, it might be in some ways, but it's so accurate. Sometimes, unfortunately, some of
yeah,
those cliche sayings are so
yeah,
used because they're so true.
So
yeah,
was it a
for
12-step based
sure.
group?
Um, so you were allowed to choose your pathway, but you had to like actually show that you were working this pathway. And at the time that I was in there wasn't really many other groups aside from 12 steps. Like I think there was like a couple Dharma meetings around, and like celebrate or faith based, and that wasn't really for me. So I did the 12 step thing. But you weren't, as long as you were showing that you were working a specific pathway, they would allow that. And now we've gotten a lot more in the community, options in the community. But yeah, I did 12 step for a very long time, actually, up until recently, within the past year. I started like diving into different pathways and different models of what addiction or substance use disorder is, and realized that I just was no longer jiving with the 12 step way. And
Did you
it
do all
came,
12 steps?
no, and so I got to my sixth step when I started like having this like existential crisis.
You just
It
didn't want to
really
turn
was
over.
like,
You just didn't want to turn it over. That's what stopped you.
yeah, honestly, I just didn't want to get to 8 and 9 and have to pay back my debt. I was like, no, I don't want to go any further. This is fine. We're good. I am glad that I worked my fourth and fifth step though. Those really made that made a really big difference in my life. But I started seeing, with the new pathways coming in and seeing how I don't want to make it seem like everybody does this, but there was a lot of judgment towards, maintenance and other pathways. And so once I started seeing that, I was like, I just can't do this anymore. But I wanted to finish out the steps. So I
So
tried
just
to stay around.
sorry, before you go any further, can you clarify what maintenance is?
Yes, maintenance is well, it's medicated assisted treatment. So it's like methadone, Suboxone, Subutex, I guess naltrexone is considered it, like the Vivitrol and stuff. So it's going to be it's medicine that you take to basically keep you from using opiates. We really don't have much for other substances.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, it's called replacement therapy, but we don't call it that anymore because it's really not. It's medication that treats opiate use disorder. And I didn't like the way that they were treating these people and how hypocritical it was to say, oh, you can't take this medication prescribed by your doctor, but if you have surgery and you have to take Percocets, well, we'll allow you to keep your clean date for that. Or, any other medication, it was fine. But this specific medication, it was like, no. And and people would bring up the, nicotine and caffeine example of like, oh, but you're doing drugs, it's nicotine and caffeine. And then people would want to fight, oh, it's just nicotine and caffeine. I'm like, what is it?
Yeah.
Like there are cultures that use tobacco as a psychedelic medication. Like you can't. And it was just too much. And I felt like it was just weighing too much on my spirit to be able to sit there and be a part of that. And so I had to start looking into other programs, pathways, finding what works for me, taking what I need and leaving the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, excuse me. So I did. So, now what I've been doing for my recovery specifically, I do a meeting on Thursdays on the Clubhouse app with another creator from TikTok, Macaulay Sexton. That's my homie. And that's like my one meeting a week. That's like my home group. It's called Alternative Recovery. And it's just a bunch of different pathways that come together and have, a fellowship group basically.
Cool.
And that's what I'm doing for my recovery.
And I'm sorry, what was that called?
It's called Alternative Recovery.
Okay.
It's on the Clubhouse app. Do you have the Clubhouse app?
I don't personally.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. I'd never heard of it until Macaulay told me about it. And it's really cool because it also has a lot of other meetings on there too that are kind of similar to that. Yeah, so I forgot what I was saying.
How are you working your recovery now? You do the one meeting on the Clubhouse app with Macaulay's group.
Yeah. So I've been doing that, and then I started doing the harm reduction thing, which for me helps me in my recovery because it's service, and that's a big part of my recovery, has always been service. I'm addicted to helping. But I mean, that is one of those things that like just gives me so much joy, and you never run out of people to help.
Mm-hmm.
And I found harm reduction basically through TikTok. These were the people that started calling me out on how certain things that I did and said were harmful. I very much gave in to or perpetuated the stigma that I was trying to end, by portraying these tropes of characters, of stereotypes of what addicts were. And I thought it was just, dark humor and me trying to cope, or that's what I said.
Mm-hmm.
But really, it was being played to a lot of people who dislike people who use drugs. And it was giving them fuel to say, see, this is why we don't like you junkies and all this stuff, And
right.
I had some good friends that pointed that out to me, that were in harm reduction. And then I started like really looking into, well, what is harm reduction? What do you mean you're helping people who use drugs. You're enabling them. Like, you can't do this. And, and I I was in this place where then I started understanding what they were saying, and then understanding what I was doing was being harmful. And I had to go through this whole deprogramming from 12 step, and not just 12 step, but deprogram from everything I'd ever known about substance use disorder and people who use drugs. And it was like this mind blowing thing that was like, whoa, I thought I knew so much about this, and now I'm realizing that I don't know anything. Not that I didn't know anything, but I didn't know what I thought I knew, and things have changed so much that I was living off of literature that was, written and studied decades ago, and we've learned so much since then. So I went on this journey to learn more, and that's when I realized that how important harm reduction was. I also really got tired of being part of a program that tells us to cut off people who are using, and they don't do it in like a shunning with like a shunning mentality. It's supposed to, be to protect me. Like, if you're using, I can't go near you. I can't talk to you because you'll get me high. Like, I'm in control of me. If it is triggering, I'm allowed to set boundaries, but I don't need to cut off people when they're suffering and hurting the most. And I'm watching all of my friends die and realizing that I could have at least kept the line of communication open. Like, if I had done that, like, maybe they wouldn't have died alone. They might, they might have still overdosed and died, but they didn't have to die in silence, in isolation, alone like that. And it was really eye-opening. So now I'm like, screw it. I'm gonna help my friends. I'm going to hand out clean needles. I'm going to hand out Narcan. I'm going to be there for my friends in the best way that I can, while also, if I have to set boundaries for myself, that's okay, but I'm not going to set boundaries to punish somebody. I'm going to set boundaries to protect myself. And that's where I'm at now.
So, if you don't mind me asking, and I think that this might be a really confusing area for a lot of people, and it might be a tricky question to answer, but we hear a lot of talk about setting boundaries. Like, when it comes to a friend who is still in active use, or a family member who's in active use, how like, what sort of a boundary do you set? Like, it's okay for you to text me and say, how are you? Or is there more communication you're allowing? Like, or is that subjective to the individual? Like, how does one define a boundary?
Okay, so what I tell people because I'll have a lot of parents, ask me, hey, I want to support my kid without enabling them.
Yep.
I'm not a huge fan of the word enabling. I always tell them, when you set boundaries to protect your peace, not to punish them. So, I mean, if you have a child that's stealing from you, that is causing chaos in your life, like, it's okay to be like, you can't live in my house. Not, I'm pushing you out because I want to see you hit bottom. Like, don't set boundaries to punish people or to make them hit their bottom. It's not going to work like that. Addiction or substance use disorder is using despite negative consequences. So if you think that trying to make them hit bottom faster is going to help, it's probably not. But it's okay to be like, no, you've stolen from me. I have other children that, like, you're causing chaos. So whatever whatever you need to do to protect your peace is okay.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, like I have friends that are actively using, and I've given people money. Yes, I know that they're probably going to use drugs, but I keep a line of communication open with them. They have a friend. A lot of these people that I've given money, I've also gotten into recovery organizations for free. You know, so sometimes it's building rapport and just keeping that line of communication open and understanding that people are going to use regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to help them do that as safely as possible. And I would also say, you know, there's financial boundaries too. Like I'm not going to give somebody $10 if I can't pay my bills. I have to set that boundary. I'm not,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not. Harm reduction and support doesn't need to be martyrdom. You know, you don't need to extend yourself to a point where you're hurting. You know, that's codependency. But you can support, and sometimes that just looks like talking on the phone to somebody or texting them, you know, and sometimes you might have to cut them out of your life because, you know, they are a triggering person to you. You don't want to have that in your life. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to setting boundaries, it's to protect you and not to punish somebody else.
I like how you frame that, because I think that might help a lot of people make that, differentiation between, am I setting a good boundary or am I punishing? So thank you very much for clarifying that. We're going to take a quick break just to talk a little bit about that. Tonight's show is also brought to you in part by Stronger Together Canada, peer-led support groups by Moms Stop the Harm, and Nar-Anon groups in Regina and Saskatoon. To learn more about all our sponsors, get on our email list, keep up to date with upcoming
We can see you, Chauncie.
live streams and more. Check out www. Check out www.hardknocksocks.com. While you're there, you can help support the platform and pick up a gnarly shirt from the shop.
Just hauling on that thing. You thought you were off screen, didn't you?
I didn't know. I was just trying my best, or at least wanted to make it look like I was trying to get out the screen. I thought for a second, though, because, you know, TikTok won't let you hit your vape, and so I do that, like, as, like, impulse. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I do it impulsively. That's not the word, is it?
Whatever.
Instinctively?
Instinctively.
Fearfully?
TikTok.
So when you're out in public, are you doing that? You're like...
Hold it in.
Because
gotta blow clear.
Occasionally I will be in like a restaurant or something, and I'll be like I'm a child. Yeah. If anybody says that vaping is better than cigarettes, they're lying, because I hit my vape way more than I smoked cigarettes.
Mm-hmm. I hear you. I hear you. And then on top of it, like, at least when I smoke a cigarette, unless, you know, anyways, the dry cotton blast. Oh my God, that's just dreadful. Or when you haven't changed your pod, you know, soon enough, everything gets that. Yeah. Anyway, So enough about that. That'll be next like year's episode. You know, is vape addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When the science comes out to support the fact that it is far less healthy than cigarettes.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for that to come.
Vaping harm reduction tips.
So, anyways, Chauncie, we wanted to talk about a little bit of misinformation that it's actually quite rampant, I think, on social media. And that is this idea that you can overdose from touching fentanyl. And I've seen the videos. I've seen police officers open like a box, and, you know, somebody's making some commentary about, oh, that officer, you know, he was exposed, and then he lost consciousness. So let's hear your thoughts on that, Chauncie.
Yeah, if you knew how many times I was exposed to fentanyl when I was digging through, when I was living in a recovery house, like trying to go through the girls' bags to make sure they didn't have anything, like you would, like, I should be dead 20 times over. Or even the fact that I used to shoot up fentanyl, like I could shoot it up, but you can't touch it. Like that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
even make any sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, some would
It
say that
does
your
make
tolerance
sense.
was higher.
Yeah, that's what they'll try to say. Like, no,
Just no.
no. I shot up fentanyl when I was 6 months sober. Like, I had no tolerance. Like, that was lucky though. That was very lucky.
Very.
Because it is definitely dangerous to shoot up fentanyl. So this started with DEA and law enforcement. It started with DEA. They had a training video through NIOSH, NIOSH. I may be getting that wrong. And it was on the CDC website for a while. They finally just took it down because toxicologists and experts were like, you have to take this video down. This is causing widespread panic. So you cannot, like, it's causing such panic that people are actually thinking that they're overdosing, but they're having panic attacks.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind, like, how often this is occurring and that nobody is seeing that it's only happening to cops. Like, you don't hear about this. You did hear about it with fentanyl dollar lady whose husband was a cop. And now recently, a few days ago, we heard that a school principal or somebody found some fentanyl pills, and they inadvertently were exposed and they overdosed.
But did they die?
For people to right?
Did they have naloxone on site?
Yeah.
Right.
That was the good question.
How is it easier for people to believe that you can die from touching a powder than it is for you to believe that a school person found pills and took one? Like, how is that easier for you to believe? So the first thing people always say is it can be absorbed through the skin. Look at this CDC website. Okay, so y'all gonna come to me, y'all believe the CDC today, but last year when they were telling you to wear a mask, CDC was not credible. So, but yeah, it can be absorbed through the skin by way of fentanyl patches. Now, it took decades and millions of dollars to formulate a patch that would make it so that fentanyl could be absorbed through the skin. They have matrix systems. They use DMSO, and it takes 12 to 16 hours for a concentrated patch to deliver a therapeutic dose. Not even like overdose levels, like therapeutic dose. So powdered fentanyl, or even liquid fentanyl, we see anesthesiologists and nurses spill fentanyl on themselves all the time. And this is not happening. I did a video where I got fentanyl and held it in my hand and discussed that this is not how this happens.
And it got taken off of TikTok. And you said, I'm going to make this video, but it's going to get taken down. And I'm like, well, then why are you putting it up? And then you did it anyways.
Yeah. Daniel says, then why are you going to put it up if you're going to get banned? And I was like, well, maybe other people will share it. So I put it up and I got banned, and I made a backup account and put it on there, and that one got 50,000 views. Then on my main account, when it came back, I duetted my backup account's video, and it banned me again on my main account. But it was important for me to get that information because I knew that I would get banned, but if other people posted it, it would be fine. It was important for me to get this information out because what is happening because of this misinformation is people are now afraid to help somebody who is actually experiencing an overdose. They're scared if they touch them, they're going to get fentanyl on them. They're scared if they come near them, they're going to breathe in fentanyl, which, by the way, fentanyl is very heavy. So it's not just going to poof into the air. They actually did a terror attack in Moscow in 2001, I believe, where they pumped a theater full of aerosolized fentanyl and carfentanil, and it took them 200 minutes for them to ingest enough fentanyl for them to start feeling the effects. Like, it's not, fentanyl is dangerous, but it's not a magical this like mythical drug that like if you touch it you're going to die. Like,
right.
And it's not chloroform. Like, it's just that's not how fentanyl works. And to be completely honest, like, everybody's freaking out about fentanyl, but that's like the weakest thing that we have on the illicit market right now. We've got carfentanil, all these fentanyl analogs. We've got the rise of nitazines coming out. Like, there's much stronger things on the market. And
what's a nitazine?
Nitazine is another synthetic opioid, and it's basically just going to be stronger than like your fentanyl analogs. They also made those. Some places it's popping up. You'll see something called ISO. That's isotinitazine. I hope I'm saying that right. But it's just another stronger synthetic opioid, because what's happening is we keep, in the US specifically, I don't know how it is up there. I know it's not. I know y'all sometimes follow suit with our iron law of drug prohibition. Y'all, Canada's getting a lot better than we are, and hopefully we'll follow suit. But what happens is, you have heroin, and the DEA cracks down on heroin, and so then the cartels and stuff start putting out fentanyl. They start, every time the DEA schedules a drug, these clandestine labs tweak their formulas. It makes it stronger and more dangerous, and then that gets put out. So we're seeing that, we saw it with opium to heroin to fentanyl to the nitazines, and then we have like benzos that are being mixed. Y'all have the benzo dope up there, I know, really bad. We're having the trank dope down here, which is mixed with xylazine. It just makes it worse and stronger. Sorry, I went off on a rant there, but the whole point of me getting out the fact that we need to squash the misinformation about touching or passively breathing fentanyl dust is people are afraid to help someone who is actually experiencing an overdose. And we're also seeing cops charge people with assault on a police officer over something that is not possible. And it's just, we've got to get this misinformation squashed, because it's hurting way more people than it's helping. I have a lot of people be like, why wouldn't you want kids to be afraid of fentanyl? Because those kids are going to have friends that are doing fentanyl, and those friends are going to die if the kids are too scared to help them. So it's, that's like my big thing that I'm working on now.
So you like are a plethora of information on all. How much time do you spend like researching and sort of reading up on all this kind of stuff, or do you just have like an amazing memory?
No, this is what I listen to, read all day long, every day. It's like my hyperfixation is like drugs and dinosaurs, and like
I can't do them. I'll just fucking live vicariously by reading through.
Yeah, but I've always been like that since I was young. Like back in the day, we had bluelight.org. Like I was like 15 years old doing cold water extractions off of Percocets and stuff. Yeah, it's so weird. I guess it helps me out in the places that I'm at now. But yeah, it is. It's kind of strange how much I know about drugs.
Tell us about Val.
Yes, tell us about Val.
There's Val.
Val. So this is my African Val Reebok. Can you see him on this? Look,
we can see him.
He's got naloxone earrings.
Hang on, we got this.
So this guy.
Show us again. Show us again.
Show us again.
One more time.
Hold his head up again there.
The naloxone earrings. Aw.
Oh.
He's formed the wrong way. He's not. You couldn't see him in the other one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to have Val. I love like taxidermy things. Everything that I get is ethically sourced from reputable dealers. I don't think that Val was, to be honest. I think he was just like poached somewhere in Africa.
Aww.
And then he like lived in somebody's garage for a really long time. And I found him at an oddities show and they were like $200 for him. And I was like, I need that. Like $200, that's a steal. These things are like $1,500. And my boyfriend was like, where are we going to put it?
Yeah.
I said, I don't know. All I know is it's too good of a steal to pass up. Like we have to have him. So we got him, and thank goodness we did, because he is best supporting actor in most of my TikToks.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have you Narcaned Val?
He has been Narcaned quite a few times.
Val's got some
not
challenges.
Not to mention it, like sometimes it takes a few takes. So fortunately I have a trainer now, so he doesn't have to keep getting hit with Narcan. No,
he's
honestly,
actually alive. He's just very heavily Narcan.
He serves his purpose. He knows what his role is. He's just supposed to stand there and look pretty.
Nice.
And he knows it.
Well, he does a great job.
Yeah, he does.
And how about your friend behind you there?
Yes. This is Foxy Naloxy, witch's hat not included. She has lots of different outfits already, as does Val. She's so cute. So you can get this on Etsy. The shop is called Pin Merger, but if anybody wants it, just Google Foxy Naloxy. And how cute is that? It's a little plushie that's a naloxone. I saw it and I was like, shut up and take my money. For somebody who doesn't have money, I sure don't mind spending it on stuffed antelopes and stuffed naloxone.
Well, I think it's a great way to, I don't know, have a little fun and it's a wonderful prop for some of the stuff that you do on TikTok, so definitely a worthwhile investment.
Yeah, I mean, I did.
And when you're really bored,
money on I used to spend all my money on heroin and meth. Now I waste it on stuffed animals. So you win some, you lose some. Pros and cons.
Well, if you're having a really bad day, you could always scare the shit out of the neighbors with Val there. Yeah.
Oh. So the best part is my neighbors think that I'm crazy because I will make TikToks like in my front yard or walking down my front porch, like carrying the antelope, and I know they just think that I'm a Looney Tune. I have a tripod set up outside, and I'm like, I know everybody. Our houses are like right up on top of each other, so I know they'd see me.
That's priceless. You definitely have a lot more guts than I would. If I like go out and a towel in my hair, I'm like, oh my god, can the neighbors see me? You know.
Isn't it so funny though? Like I used to like walk out the house looking crazy, and now I'm like, I can't leave the house looking like this. Somebody will think I'm on drugs. Who are you trying to pretend to be right now? Like,
Yeah, that's hilarious. So, getting back to the conversation that we were having just moments before meeting Val and Foxy, you had a conversation, a very important conversation with the local sheriff.
yes. Oh my gosh. So, because of all of the misinformation that's been put out there about the touching fentanyl, there's actually an organization called Shield that does can touch this training. I believe that they're all former law enforcement.
Sorry, I just saw. Sorry, I just saw MC Hammer. Can't touch this. You should do a video. You should do a TikTok.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So that's what it's called. Can touch this training, where they teach local law. They're former law enforcement. They teach local law enforcement and first responders the truth about fentanyl, that you can't touch it and overdose. And they teach them about harm reduction and stuff. So I looked into it. I got in touch with the people, and I was like, targeted this one sheriff in this county next to mine, because he's very into helping people with substance use disorder. Like, he's got this great program in his jail that, like, even after they get out, they like they set them up at recovery houses, all this stuff. So wow. I went to the jail program's alumni picnic the other day, and as soon as I saw him, I was like, hey, Sheriff Leonard. And like gave him my like 30-second elevator pitch, because I've been practicing. I've been waiting like to get this man alone just to see if he'll get this program. And
did you bring?
So creepy.
Did you bring Val?
I did not bring Val, but maybe next time I see him, I'll be like, Val thanks you. Maybe I'll take a picture and like make a postcard and say,
just be like,
Val appreciates
be like,
you.
Val died because he touched fentanyl.
Yeah, but the sheriff actually agreed to doing it. And he was like, yeah, I have an academy that's about to come through. Let's do it. So it's like, yes. And I was like, it's going to be so great, because you're going to be a leader in this area, and all the other police departments are going to follow suit, because they're going to see what Carl Leonard has done. And like, I made it seem so extravagant. And I probably could have just been like, hey, you should do this training. And he probably would have been like, okay, because he's pretty good about stuff like that. But I had to make it grand.
I somehow find it hard to believe that you would be really grand and theatrical about it all. That's not your style.
Never. Not me. I never failed to bring the drama.
I wish you were my neighbor.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so excited when he said that. Like, my day just like couldn't even get any better. Now I have to stay on top of him and make sure that it happens. But I will not let this fall to the wayside. It's going to happen.
Okay. That's great, and I hope that a lot of other precincts, I'm not sure what you guys call them down there, but I hope a lot of other law enforcement agencies pick up on that and start putting out correct information about that. Because
I'm hoping that once this goes down, like I have this all planned out in my head. I have no action towards it yet, aside from getting it into the police department. But I'm hoping that like we can make it a big thing and like say, hey, you know, get News Channel 12 on there, Kurt Autry on your side. That's my local news guy that I love.
Okay.
You know, I'm hoping to get, you know, I'm hoping though to get attention to it, because if we can get attention drawn to this through law enforcement, like if we could put this on the news, like other places will start to be like, oh, you know, maybe start to listen, because not everybody is like down to listen to like a high school graduate that has no degrees or like just TikToks, you know, like I don't have any letters behind my name. I just have a hyperfixation on drug culture, and it's hard to get people to listen to me when I'm on TikTok. Like,
Narcanning a stuffed antelope.
Narcanning a stuffed antelope.
I've gone to the links of finding the doctor that was featured on a Entertainment Tonight or Inside Edition feature about it, and like gotten her to get in touch with another news reporter in Michigan, like, because nobody wants to listen to me. Like,
wow, that's
where there's a will, there's a way, and maybe I'm gonna find that way.
That's why we do what we do.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, well, Chauncie, I think that brings us pretty much to the end of everything. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you this evening. It's been a very enjoyable conversation. Is there anything you'd like to say before we head out?
Just thank you guys so much for having me. I was a lot more comfortable this time.
Yeah.
I wasn't as scared this time. I love you and Daniel both so much. And remember, kids, you cannot OD from touching fentanyl.
Thank you very much, Chauncie. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you around.
See ya.
Okay, that's it for me. Thanks so much for watching. Give us a like, follow, subscribe, do all the things, and we will see you next week. Take care.